you take a second to introduce yourself and your family and tell us a little bit about what you are doing right now for work?
Sure. I'm Angela Brigance, and I'm married to Steve, and we have two children. We have a son who's local to us in Washington, who's out on his own, and then a daughter who's an Army wife and living in Alaska, and we have a little grandson who's 3, so it's wonderful. And I work at an assisted living community, Harbor Point, in Mukilteo, Washington, as the executive director. So I have 100 residents who live with me and about 50 staff I take care of. And right now we're COVID-free. We're in the middle of all of this, and it is a daily challenge to make sure we stay that way.
Right. So yeah, tell us about the lockdown process there. How locked down are you?
We are very locked down. So we started about, I want to say almost 8 weeks ago, of having just limited visitors, limiting who can come in. And then about, I'd say 4 or 5 weeks ago, we went to no visitors. Okay. So as soon as the official, stay in place order came in, we went to no visitors at all, unless it's a home health agency or if someone were on hospice. So if someone is dying of hospice, we have a special entrance that the family can come in so they can be there for the end of life. Right. And we have to temp everybody who walks in our building. They have to fill out a questionnaire. If they state that they've been in any building that has COVID in it, they're not allowed in our building. We send them straight out the door. If they run a temperature, we send them straight out the door. And we have to do that with every staff member and every resident every day.
Wow. So then how has that affected your life personally? Because that affects what you can or can't do in your own personal life, knowing you're going to be walking into that facility every day.
Yeah, I go nowhere. I come to work and I go home. And I think I've been in one store because I had to pick up flowers for Mother's Day for some residents because we were a little bit short on our order. And I walked in the store with my hands in my pockets, and my husband, I pointed to flowers and he picked them up and he went and checked out, and I went back to my car. So we do that because I work here, and because, as you know, I have had lung cancer and I only have one lung. So I am highly susceptible to this virus. So my building is extra special careful with me, and I'm extra special careful with all of my residents and staff.
Yeah. So that's a good segue. Tell me, or tell us a little bit about your experiences, because you didn't just have one near-death, terrible, traumatic experience. You had 2, and that's probably a lot of details, but maybe just give us a synopsis of kind of what you've been through in your life that has led you to where you're at right now.
So in the last 5 years, I have had 2 near-death experiences. I had a brain aneurysm at one of my buildings that I was working at the time, and my staff saved my life. They found me underneath my desk. I had a brain rupture and changed my life forever. It was 5 years ago this year. And then a year and a half later, I was diagnosed with lung cancer. It was shortly after I joined Venture Church, and had my right lung removed after several months of chemo. So I'm very careful about all of my health concerns and staying fit and healthy and strong so that I can continue to do what I love. I've been doing this work in senior living for the last 27 years, kind of as a dedication back to my grandparents who moved in with me when I was 2. And then my last grandmother died the day my youngest child was born. Wow. So we didn't get to say goodbye. So my process was, I'm going to come into this industry of senior living. I was a school psychologist. I worked with special needs children. I was a autism specialist. And I decided, I'm going to give back to those who gave to me all my life. And I've never been able to leave it. I get so much from the residents and people that I can't pay that back ever.
Was there anything specific that caused that sort of shift in the direction of your career path to go from school psychology to senior care? Was there a specific thing?
Yeah, it was my grandmother's death. So okay. My mom's parents moved in when I was 2 into our home and helped raise us. And my grandmother went into a nursing home, and then my grandfather came down with dementia. And I used all the skills I had with autism children and communications, put that into dementia, and used that for years, just with him long before I went into this industry. And she died. She was the one who died, my last of my grandparents, the day my youngest child was born. Josh was born. And I said, I need to give back to those who had given to me all my life. And that's what happened. And I've always had dementia in my buildings, whether it's in skilled nursing or assisted living or whatever I've been doing. And I fell in love with it. It's kind of my segue from autism to Alzheimer's.
Okay, you cut out for just a second, and it's my internet, not yours.
Okay.
So I'm just going to back you up just a hair.
Sure.
I lost you where you said you lost your final grandparent on the day that Josh was born, and then I missed, that's a key piece, so re-say what you said right there.
Sure. So let me think about just where I was. So I lost my grandmother the day that Josh was born. She died in the evening and Josh was born in the morning. I always say that they passed in the night. Wow. They passed through heaven together. And I decided to dedicate my career to seniors at that time as a gift back to them for all they had done for me. And it tied in my autism with all the Alzheimer's work that I've done for the last 27 years now.
Right. Which I know you, so I know this is a huge passion in your life. And I know kind of the little rabbit trails, not really rabbit trails, like giant freeways it's built for you. But for the person who doesn't know you, talk a little bit about your passion specifically in that area.
Well, autism and Alzheimer's have similar language patterns. So I used what I learned back in the days where I was an autism specialist with my grandfather when he was diagnosed with dementia. It just kind of came naturally to me. And when I went into this industry, I've always been attracted to that. It's kind of like if you ride on a plane and you see a baby and they're talking to someone who speaks another language, they're fascinated with one another. Mm-hmm. I was fascinated with the language of Alzheimer's. So I dove into it. I've studied with major people across the country and have had one-on-one trainings with some of the top people in the world. And then a year ago, just 2 days ago, was the 1-year anniversary of my book coming out, Finding Rose, where I teach families and caregivers how to remain connected with their loved ones. And so I'm excited that it's been a year now, and it's time to start writing the sequel to that book. And I'm also writing, because my daughter's asked me, I'm writing a children's book on dementia.
Oh, wow. Okay, so I've read your book. I have had the privilege of reading it and seeing a glimpse into. So for those who haven't read it or heard of the book, again, it's Finding Rose, and it is very much you've written out a narrative or a fable almost, and a makeshift story for us to be able to understand how dementia is playing out in someone's life from early onset or early stages of it to how a family deals with it. And then you give the nuts and bolts. Talk about what that process was like for you writing the book, because I know that was pretty fast. And also kind of the doors it's opened for you and what you've been able to do with it.
So writing the book came so easy. I have a million stories. I've been doing this so long, and it's really my family story. So when you read the characters in the book, you'll recognize my family's name if you know me. The stories, when my cousins read the book, and I haven't seen them in years, they're like, that's the story of Bob and Pop, my grandparents. I'm like, yeah, it is. Mixed in with all the stories for all the people I've met along the way. And I wrote the book in 8 weeks. It took nearly a year to get published and out, but I wrote it in 8 weeks. So that was kind of a whirlwind. And it has opened doors. I've spoken across the country to seniors, to family members. I get to consult on the phone. And I even got to go to China in November, the first week of November, before all of this craziness, and look at assisted living there.
Wow. So in the current crisis that we're facing, with the limitations that's placed on families coming and visiting, obviously you have all sorts of people in your facility there, but talk to me about those who are struggling with dementia or Alzheimer's and how this crisis specifically is affecting them.
Well, even those with, at this time, what we found is those who have mild dementia, not even those who need dementia care, but they have mild dementia are going into moderate dementia because of isolation, because of routines that have been broken. They are having a harder time. So tempers flare a little bit more. They're a little more confused, get lost a little bit more. So it's changed their life in dramatic ways. And they don't understand. We do glass visits. So one family member here, a resident here, and a piece of glass between them, the window. And they get to visit, which is great, except then they get really mad at us. Mm-hmm. Why can't I go outside and go out with my loved one? And they don't understand the answer. So it's a constant battle and a constant emotional piece that you have to get out and help monitor with them.
And you've actually seen the progression of disease as a result.
Yes, absolutely.
Wow.
And our families do too, even the ones who, I mean, they can't come in, but they recognize the difference in their loved one. Mm. So we hope that when we're able to do a little bit more, we kind of feel like we're in a bubble because none of our residents have COVID, none of them have been out. So we're going to start releasing a little bit more and more now within the building, which might help, we hope, bring people back a little bit.
Okay.
Get back in their routines and help them come back a little bit.
That feels fascinating to me because although I don't know anything about brain research, I know you've done quite a bit of research. Is there a history or any kind of a precedent for regaining some of that functionality?
It's kind of like when someone goes to the hospital as dementia. They go to the hospital and their baseline is here. And when they go in and they start dropping, their baseline drops in the hospital because it's a different routine, a different environment, medical things going on. When they come back, they go back up, but they never hit the same baseline. Mm. So our anticipation is that residents will come back to a similar level to what they were, but probably will not hit the same baseline again.
Wow. Oh. And then obviously the longer this goes, the more ground
it is. That's why coming within the building, because we don't anticipate visitors coming in our building for quite a while still, is that if we can make inside the community more normalized again.
Yeah.
Meals in the dining room and activities and more things going on, not just in their rooms. It will help bring them back sooner and not put as much pressure on them.
Yeah. Wow. So talk to me, I mean, we're hearing your passion, but talk to me like really what's your deepest passion in your life right now? Period. It could be anything.
Yeah. If I were to do anything right now besides writing more, I want to write the sequel to this book. I want to write the children's book. I want to write a instructional manual for caregivers, but I love to teach. If I could teach and speak, I would be I'd be so happy. That's my favorite thing, is to be in front of an audience. Give me a mic, let me talk, let me make them laugh, let me bring them to that emotional piece, help them understand I know what they're going through and help them get past it.
Yeah.
Give people the tools they need to live through all this.
Yeah. You have a lot. I mean, I've watched
gratitude because I've gone through all these medical pieces. I love to talk on gratitude, on what I've gone through and how I see God in it, and how I've been blessed by cancer and I've been blessed by a brain aneurysm and the many things that have happened in my life since I was a child.
Wow. I feel like we could go for a long time because that's really good. But give me like a sentence or two about that, about gratitude, even in very difficult circumstances.
You know, it's hard when you're in the middle of it. But when I look back, I can see every timepiece of my life that had been put in place to bring me to where I am today. And it could be deaths, it could be a divorce, it could be medical conditions. But when I look back, if I hadn't been there, I wouldn't be here.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. So you've probably touched on it, but if you could summarize, how has the current crisis in our world affected you personally? What has that done in your life and your routine and your work?
Yeah, in a big picture, in November, when I went to China, the hope was that I would be able to go back to China many times and do some work in dementia in China. And I was so looking forward to it. And then I got a call the first part of December saying, we're going to bring someone over from Japan for a while instead. And I was really sad because I loved being in China. I loved this work. And yet I know that this is one of those places where I look back and go, oh, well, God was protecting me, because had I been in China, contracted this virus at the point that it was then, I may not be here today.
Right.
With one lung. So I see that place where life has taken me, and I appreciate all that. Every day I come in and, it's my job, make sure that everybody's good and everybody's well. And I spend a lot of hours trying to figure that out and make sure that, we get it. You're on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. If someone works in another community and they, have been exposed in any remote way, they have to call me, go through a whole list of questions, show me proof on this or that before they can come back in. So I'm always on call for anything going on. And anytime a resident goes to the hospital, they have to be tested, and we all hold our breath.
Right.
Until they come back and we know it's negative. Every staff member that's been tested has been negative, but you hold your breath.
Yeah.
Because if that happens, again, that changes what's going on in your building.
Yeah.
Yeah. My life changes because I become more restricted.
Yes. And you have contingencies for everything. We have found that too. You're not just adapting to the current circumstances, you're also preparing to adapt to a multiple of contingencies that could come your way. Yeah. And then every time there's a new announcement from anybody, you're adapting again. So yeah. I would like to coin a new phrase called adaptation fatigue.
Yeah. I get it. I'm like, okay. You look at pictures on Facebook and the first thing we have to look at is, are they social distanced?
I know.
Because we have to look at that for everything. Yeah. And then, I go home, and my poor husband, we sold our tool franchise just before this started, and he can't get a job because everywhere that he's applied can't train. It's a new business that was going to open, and they can't open. So he's home busy painting the house and, cleaning and moving things and working and doing all the honey-do lists that I've ever had to do.
And
so,
faithfully supporting. He faithfully supports Late Night with Tony also, which we're very
he said
grateful.
I'm supposed to mention Tony's Late Night because he's always on it. He never misses it, and he loves it.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, well, one final question. I'll kind of throw you a little bit of a curveball in how I ask it, because it's so obvious that faith is such an integral part of your life. Mm-hmm. And you've kind of talked a little bit about your future dreams, but could you merge those together? Like what does your future look like maybe a few years from now or 5 years from now, with how much faith is a part of your life, as well as your skill set and your experiences?
I always believe that God's putting me where I'm supposed to be at any time. And so, we're looking at, the publisher I work with is a Christian gentleman. It's a Christian company. So I feel well-rounded in that and protected in a way. And so in a few years, I want the other books to be written. I want to be speaking across the country. I'd like to be talking more on gratitude and more about how God has shaped my life and the things I've gone through, because there's a myriad of things that no one would have ever guessed in my life. And if I were to have a ultimate piece that I would love to do, I'd love to speak at Women at Faith one day.
Wow.
That would be my ultimate dream.
It's good that you don't have very many goals to.
Yeah, I mean, just little ones, just little.
All right. So if people wanted to be in contact with you or ask questions or seek direction for anything concerning dementia or autism, first of all, we can direct them to your book, Finding Rose. And that's on Amazon. Am I right on that?
Amazon, it's on eBooks, Audible, and hard copy.
Perfect. So that's called Finding Rose, and this is Angela Brigance. But also, how would you feel about me just giving your contact info in this video it'll be in the stream for people who are watching if they have questions or need you to connect them. Would you be okay with that?
Oh, I'm fine with that. Yes, absolutely.
You're very gracious. Thank you. All right. Well, thank you, my friend, for your time. You're one of the most remarkable, driven, goal-oriented, gracious, intelligent, you got all the pieces together.
I wonder why I had you do our wedding ceremony.
You have overcome so much with the best attitude. So I'm better for having known you. And I hope others who are watching this feel like, wow, I'm a better person just for having been a part of this. So thank you so much for your time. And thanks for watching People Adventure.
Absolutely. Bye.